Hello, my name's Ian Nichols and I'm the CEO of explic8. I'd like to tell you a true story that I call the Mushroom Man. After speaking at a manufacturing conference in Glasgow, I was invited to conduct a Principles of Lean Thinking presentation and discussion to the board of a food manufacturing company in South Wales. The meeting was scheduled for Friday morning and I was working with a client in the Midlands on the previous day. So I suggested I drive down from the Midlands to South Wales when I'd finished. It meant I would not arrive at the facility until around 8 or 9 in the evening, depending upon the traffic. I always prefer to have a site tour before I speak with the management team, so I can have an inkling to the type of issues that the company might be experiencing and to gain a bit of an insight into the culture. I arrived on site just before 9 p.m. and was greeted by the warehouse manager, who very kindly offered to guide me around my site tour. We started with his area of responsibility, the warehouse, and on this evening he suggested we follow the process starting at the goods in bay. Areas 1 and 2 are fridges, which I estimate must have been approximately 4 metres by 4 metres. Areas 3 and 4 are yellow diagonally painted squares on the floor of the warehouse, again 4 metres by 4 metres. As I was walking around with the warehouse manager, I asked if I could look inside one of the fridges. I slid the door open and the fridge was stacked from floor to ceiling with trays of mushrooms. So much so that the light in the ceiling was blocked by the towering stacks of trays of mushrooms. The warehouse manager was not best pleased, to say the least. He yelled, "They should not be here." I asked why not and where should they be. He explained the company had a problem concerning mushrooms, which were an ingredient in a number of the products manufactured. The mushrooms were often past their expiry date when they came to be used and therefore had to be scrapped. This waste was costing the company a considerable sum of money. So the company devised a stock control system to eliminate the problem. It worked like this. Each morning, someone from the production department took the mushrooms needed for day 1 from fridge 1 into the production department, leaving fridge 1 empty. The production department were only allowed to draw stock from fridge 1 and nowhere else. When the mushrooms were withdrawn from fridge 1, it was left empty until the warehouse workers moved the mushrooms from fridge 2 and placed them in fridge 1, leaving fridge 2 empty, and enough mushrooms in fridge 1 for the next day's production requirement. The warehouse workers then moved the mushrooms from the yellow painted square 3 into fridge 2. The warehouse workers moved the mushrooms for yellow painted square 4 to 3, leaving square 4 empty to receive the mushrooms for the next day's delivery. When the mushroom man arrived, he would place the new consignment into the empty yellow painted square 4. The red arrows on the diagram represent the movement of mushrooms. Simple. This stock control system or stock rotation procedure was devised to prevent mushrooms from passing their expiry date before being used, and therefore to save money. But it did not. The new stock management system had failed to solve the very problem it was devised to cure. On our evening tour of the facility, the manager explained that the mushrooms in question were in the wrong place because what had happened was the mushrooms from fridge 1 had been removed earlier in the day by the production personnel, and according to plan, the warehouse workers had moved the mushrooms from fridge 2 to fridge 1 and then left the warehouse for their tea break. Meanwhile, the mushroom man had arrived and put the new mushrooms into the empty fridge 2, since fridge 1 and the yellow painted squares 3 and 4 were all full. The new mushrooms had jumped the queue, and if the error had gone unnoticed, the mushrooms in yellow painted square 4 would have again been out of date at the point of use. This cracks me up. I asked the warehouse manager how often the mushroom man delivered. "Every day," was the reply. "Why?" I asked. "Because we must have fresh mushrooms," said the warehouse manager. Each area held 1 day's worth of stock of mushrooms, so that by the time the mushrooms were used, they were at least 4 days old. We could use the error to our advantage. Follow the blue arrows. If the production personnel remove mushrooms from fridge 1 and leave it empty, The warehouse workers could move the mushrooms from fridge 2 to fridge 1, leaving fridge 2 empty. When the mushroom man arrives, he could put the new mushrooms into the empty fridge 2, leaving yellow painted squares 3 and 4 unused or able to be used for something else. The cause of this problem consists of two main elements. The first is that the supervisory management likes to have stock on hand to keep the workers busy, and the second part is that supervisory management doesn't trust the mushroom man to deliver when he should. Therefore, we have to have contingency stock so we don't lose production. The key to the solution is the level of stock holding. Without being too sophisticated, a much simpler control system could be envisaged. The production department draws its daily requirements of mushrooms from stock in fridge 1, leaving it empty, and when the mushroom man arrives, he puts the new mushrooms into fridge 1 for tomorrow's production. However, if we ask the mushroom man when he could deliver, if he could deliver before the shift started, we wouldn't need to keep any stock at all, and the mushroom man could simply wheel the mushrooms for the day to the doors of the production department, waiting for the production staff to arrive. That's depicted by the purple arrow. If we look at the effort in the different options, the red arrow has 5 pickups and put downs in the process. The blue arrow has 3 pickups and put downs. The green arrows have 2 pickups and put downs, but the purple arrow only has 1. There's more to this story. The customer was demanding shorter lead times, but the manufacturer was asking, begging for longer lead times. It was actually building more and bigger fridges to hold more stock. The customer placed 2 orders per week. For the weekend, they would order on a Wednesday for delivery on Saturday. So let's just think about this. To deliver the product on Saturday, the product would be manufactured and the mushrooms would be used on Friday. In other words, the mushrooms would be removed from fridge 1 on Friday. The mushrooms would be removed from fridge 2 on Thursday. They'd be removed from the yellow painted square 3 on Wednesday. The mushrooms would be removed from yellow painted square 4 on Tuesday, and the mushrooms would be delivered on Monday and placed in square 4. But because the mushroom man offers guaranteed next working day delivery, the mushrooms have to be ordered on the Friday of the previous week. This means that the manufacturer is having to forecast on Friday, when the mushrooms are ordered, what quantity of mushrooms will be required 8 days later when they come to be used. This phenomenon is known as stacked lead time, and this type of thinking is how it's created. Of course, there are only 2 rules to deal with forecasts. Rule 1, forecasts are always wrong. Rule 2, if you think they're right, refer to Rule 1. When the mushrooms were used, there was never the correct amount, always either too much or not enough. If there was not enough, the order would have to be sent short. But if there was too much, the surplus mushrooms would have to be scrapped, because they couldn't be used the following day because they'd be beyond the use-by date. So, if we follow the green arrows, we can order our mushrooms as soon as we receive the customer order on Wednesday. The mushrooms are delivered on Thursday, used on Friday, and product delivered on time and in full on Saturday, with a 2-day lead time instead of 8 days. So let's have a look at the benefits. Heat, light and power costs are down 50% because we're only using 1 fridge instead of 2. Space requirements are down 75% because we're using 1 fridge instead of 2 fridges and 2 yellow painted squares. Stock holdings down by 75% because we're holding 1 day's stock instead of 4. Asset requirements are lowered because the warehouse team used to move the pallets of mushrooms with a forklift truck, but now only a hand trolley is needed. Warehouse labour is no longer involved, so the labour requirement is down to 0. Material waste is removed because the mushrooms are not going out of date. Cash flows improve because of the reduction in stock holdings. Output and sales are up because there are no more lost sales because of not having enough mushrooms. And with an increase in output and a reduction in labour, productivity has to increase. But this is the best bit. Because the mushrooms are fresher, the customer receives fresher, better quality product. And because the lead time is shorter, the manufacturer can be more responsive to the changing demands from the customer. Happy customers, every company's dream. Happy customers and better quality usually means more sales. More sales, increased income, lower cost, more profit. If we can achieve this kind of improvement through operational excellence in such a small section of the warehouse, imagine what we could do across the whole company. We could transform the business. Together we could be dangerous.